Hi guys. So this will be the first portion of our Hobbes lecture, which is chapter 4. Okay, Thomas Hobbes. Um, so if you look at page 31, that's where it begins. By the way, your first paper topic will be on the critical reading questions on page 35. So you'll choose one of those questions. See, they're critical reading questions. You'll choose one of those, and as I've stated on the paper topic on Canvas, you cannot choose number 6 because I'm not really going to go over it, and I'm not even sure why that's in here because this excerpt that they have taken from the main text doesn't really go over the powers that the sovereign has anyway, so I don't even know why that's a good question, but whatever. So you can't do number 6. So you can choose 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. Okay? But we'll talk about that later. Now, so go to page 31 and look at my notes. I have the notes up on Canvas too, and I'll be going through them. So follow along throughout the lecture. Okay, so the first thing I've written is what happens without government. If you see the first paragraph on page 31, Kaufman asks us what the world would be like if all of a sudden there were no rules, no government, no authority. Basically, if anybody could do whatever they wanted, whenever they wanted to do it, what would happen? Do you think that people would sit around reading books and trying to educate themselves? Or exercising? Or helping each other? That is not what human beings would do if there were no rules in the world, if there were no consequences to any of their actions. And that is not what human beings have done when that has actually happened in the world. What tends to happen is people riot. They loot stores. They hurt other people. And the main reason for that is that we're concerned about our own survival. So we do whatever we can to ensure our own survival. So look what I say right below that. This is this idea, what we would do if there were no rules, no authority, no consequences, based on the supposition that human beings are naturally selfish and ultimately only desire their own survival. This, by the way, is true. We are biological organisms, and biological organisms, when cornered, will fight for their own survival, even in a circumstance that is dire, in which there is really no escape. We will still find some way to fight. And that's standard for biological organisms. You see that I've written, after the first sentence, the car example. EX means example. Ask yourselves what would happen if you're a pedestrian or on a bicycle and suddenly there are cars and motorcycles and Hummers and whatever else, and there are no traffic rules. And if you run a red light or a stop sign, or you're going too fast, or you're driving drunk, there are no police officers. There's nobody to stop you. There's nobody to give you a ticket. You have no fear of reprisal. What is the likelihood, as a pedestrian, that you would get from point A to point B unscathed every day? I don't even have that kind of assurance right now. And we have traffic rules. We have laws against drunk driving. And the consequences for drunk driving are actually pretty serious. I don't even have the assurance now with a civil authority that I won't be run over by some jackass driving like a moron. What do you think it would be like if it didn't matter how you drove because there was nobody to tell you that you can't drive that way? Do you really think that you would make it from point A to point B unscathed for 20 years? 5 years? 1 year? 6 months? You wouldn't. And that's why in the state of nature, life is solitary, poor, nasty, brutish, and short. Because it is unlikely, slim to no chance, that we will survive for any decent amount of time. We're lucky if we survive long enough to procreate. But our own children become our enemies in the state of nature. For Hobbes, this will have something to do with morality later. For Hobbes, there are 2 states of mankind. The state of nature prior to the state of civil society, civil authority, a government. And then civil society. Those are the 2 states that human beings can live in. What we have prior to civil society and civil society. Prior to civil society is a bad situation, as Hobbes sees it. Because human beings are ultimately selfish and cruel. Compassion, forgiveness, tolerance, kindness, love, all those kinds of things that we say are virtuous, those are natural inclinations of a human being. But in the state of nature, they do not conduce to the main end goal, which is survival. In the state of nature, compassion is only going to get me in trouble. If everybody is out for themselves and I say I'm going to take the higher ground and show compassion, somebody's just going to kill me. They're going to take advantage of me. They're not going to say, you know what? What a wonderful example she has set. There are people all over the place trying to kill me and take my stuff so that they can survive, but I'm going to turn the other cheek. That will ensure my survival when nobody else is behaving that way. Yeah, it doesn't work that way. If nobody else is behaving that way but you, they're just going to kill you and take your stuff because you're a moron. You have to fight for your own survival in the state of nature because there are no rules. And when there are no rules, since people are naturally, first of all, interested in their own survival, but also plenty of people are crazy, and they actually take pleasure in hurting other people and animals. They take pleasure in that. People are psychotic. You're going to be in trouble if you don't recognize that about human beings. So, in the state of nature, you trust nobody, and you do not show mercy. That is not conducive to survival unless everybody has made an agreement to do the same thing. We'll talk about that. Now, so as I say in the notes, the state of nature is equals the state of war of every man against every man. Hobbes, that's a famous quote from this piece. And Hobbes says it on page 37. Somewhere on page 37. He says that. But it doesn't matter, because that is what it is. It is the state of war of every man against every man. That is the state of human beings prior to civil society. So, all of those folks who think that we should have no government, if you really think that without any kind of rules, human beings will just be sweet and kind and giving and loving to each other, and everything will just work out, I don't know what kind of fairy tale land you're living in. That is not what human beings are like. They're not even like that when there are rules and consequences for bad behavior. They're sure as hell not going to be like that if there are no consequences. You know how many people rape and torture in this country, a first world country, when there are rules, when there are consequences, when they can get the death penalty. They can get life in prison. They don't seem to care about that. You think they're going to care to not do it when they don't have the death penalty hanging over their heads? It's ridiculous. For Hobbes, the only possibility for survival is peace, which means rules, a government. You cannot have survival without government, without rules. Because human beings, fundamentally, are cruel, disgusting creatures who will do anything to survive. Okay? Remember, we only have an excerpt of this. This is a book. It's the Leviathan. That's what the title of this piece is called, Thomas Hobbes' Leviathan, which he takes from the Bible. It is a thick book. We have 3 pages of that book. But you can get a pretty good understanding of what he's up to from those pages. Now, go back. I didn't go anywhere. Page 31, the second paragraph. Look what Kaufman says. Perhaps you wouldn't do anything untoward if there were no authority to enforce the rules. But if those around you descended into barbarism, why assume that it would not affect you too? You see that I've put a question in the notes. Why would you eventually be forced to behave badly? That's for my face-to-face classes, of whom I would ask that question, but I have to just tell you the answer, which is unfortunate. Why would you eventually be forced to behave badly if there were suddenly no government and no rules? Well, you might say, you know what? Zombie apocalypse. Everybody is running around and killing each other and trying to hide from the zombies and whatever, and they're looting the stores to get goods for their survival and store them up and whatever. They're fighting the zombies. I'm just going to stay in my little storm cellar. I have a year's worth of food. I'm not going to do anything. I'm not going to talk to anybody. I'm not going to hurt anybody because it's wrong. And I'm not like that. I won't be pulled into the fray. Well, good luck with that, because eventually you're going to run out of food. You're going to run out of something that's required for your survival. And you're going to have to leave and venture out into the world. And you're going to see that there are people or, zombies or something out there that is going to hurt you for their own survival. So you're going to have to fight back, which means you're going to have to use some strategic tactics. Now, anybody in war is going to tell you that the best way to win the war, the best way to survive, is not to sit around and wait for someone to attack you. You need to strike first. You need to be offensive, not merely defensive. At some point, if you're only being defensive, somebody is going to sneak up on you, and you're not going to know about it, and you're not going to be able to defend yourself. The best path to survival is to kill everyone, every potential enemy, before they can get to you. So if you're walking through the woods and you see some guy over there and you can tell he doesn't see you. You see his back. His back is turned to you. You say, oh God, I'm going to run away. You leave yourself open to a later attack because that guy, you left him alive. He's in the same general vicinity as you. Give it a couple of days, he's going to be wandering around and he's going to see your back. Knowing that he values his survival just as much as you value yours. Sorry. He will have no problem. Wait. Killing you for his own survival. This is so stupid. Sorry. There. He will have no problem killing you for his survival. So you shouldn't have let him go to begin with. The moment you saw his back, you should have killed him. And that way, you eliminate the possibility that in the future, he will kill you. If your end goal is survival, and that is all that it can be without a civil authority, you must strike first. You must precipitate yourself into the fray. You cannot hide from it. Eventually, something will require that you leave your hiding place. And you can't be only on the defense. You've got to play offense at some point. This is problematic because that means that human beings will engage in war no matter what. Even if another person wasn't necessarily a threat, you will still kill that other person. Okay? Now, let me see where we are here. So if you look at page 32, the first full paragraph on that page, we can avoid the state of nature, according to Hobbes, only if we are prepared to surrender some of our freedom to do as we want in exchange for similar agreements by others. I will agree not to try to take your possessions if you agree not to try to take mine. I will agree not to kill you if you agree not to kill me, and so on. Now look what I've said in the notes. Survival is only possible if human beings sacrifice some freedoms. The particular sacrificed freedom is this, the most important one, the one that we must sacrifice in order for true survival to be a possibility, is the ability to do whatever I want, whenever I want to do it, which is the freedom that we have in the state of nature. There are no rules. There's no government. There are no authoritative consequences to anything that I do. There are only natural consequences. If I cut down this tree, the tree will fall. But there are no legal consequences to anything I do. There's no government. It's complete anarchy, right? So, in that state of nature, I have the freedom to do whatever I want to do whenever I want to do it. And the thing is, you've got to be honest with yourselves about this. Some of the things that human beings want to do, even human beings who are not sociopaths, they want to hurt other people in order to get something that will make them feel good. And it doesn't mean that your end goal is not the hurting of other people. It is feeling pleasure. Your end goal is to feel pleasure. But in order to do that, sometimes we have to lie or manipulate or use other people. And we know that we're doing it. But our desire for the pleasure, whatever that is greater than our desire to be virtuous. Even good people who are not sociopaths, who don't rape and torture others, do that.